3:30 in the morning. I'm standing in the kitchen like some kind of insomniac detective, nursing a mug of cold coffee and wondering when exactly my life turned into a bad country song. The house creaks around me, old wood settling into the night. The same quiet sounds I've listened to for nearly 2 decades. I know every beam, every board, every nail in this place because I helped build half of them with my own hands. 15 years swinging hammers and hauling lumber teaches you what structures sound like when they're under stress. Right now, the house sounds a lot like I feel. Victoria Malloy, contractor, 56 years old, owner of Malloy Construction. Reduced to standing barefoot in my own kitchen at 3:30 in the morning because the man I've shared a bed with for 18 years smells like another woman's perfume. The front door clicks, soft, careful. Jason thinks he's being quiet. But after 18 years together, I know every sound he makes. The faint scrape of his shoes on the hardwood. The way he pauses just inside the doorway, listening to see if the house is asleep. His footsteps move down the hallway. He's trying to tiptoe. Jason has a very specific rhythm when he's trying not to wake me. He'll pause to pause. I don't bother turning around. Working late again? I say. Behind me, the footsteps freeze. The silence stretches for a few seconds before he exhales. Victoria, he says carefully, what are you doing up? Couldn't sleep. I take another sip of the bitter coffee. When the bed's empty, I add calmly, a person's mind tends to wander. Jason steps into the kitchen doorway. Even without looking, I can feel the tension radiating off him. When I finally turn around, he's leaning against the frame, trying to look relaxed. Jason Hale, 52, corporate consultant. Tall, handsome, in that polished way men in expensive suits tend to be. Even at this hour, he looks like he just stepped out of a magazine spread. Hair neat, shirt pressed. But there's something else, too. A scent hanging faintly in the air around him. It's not his cologne, and it's definitely not anything I've ever worn. Something expensive, sweet, feminine. The Morrison account ran late, he says quickly. You know how demanding clients can be. Sure, I say. My eyes drift to his neck, just beneath his jawline. There's a faint purple mark, small, but impossible to miss once you see it. Especially the kind that leave hickeys. His hand flies to his neck instantly. His fingers press against the spot like he can hide it now. That's not... He stops, searching. I bumped into a cabinet at the office, he says. The lie lands between us like a broken piece of glass. For a moment, neither of us moves. Jason has always been good with words. That's why he's successful. He can spin almost anything into something believable. But tonight, the color drains from his face for just a second too long. And I know. God help me. I know. I'm tired, he says suddenly. We'll talk in the morning. He turns toward the hallway. His phone buzzes on the kitchen counter where he dropped it. The screen lights up. A message preview appears. I see the name first. Lena. Then the text. I can't stop thinking about tonight. When can I taste you again? The kitchen goes completely silent. Jason stops walking. Slowly, very slowly, he turns around. We both stare at the glowing screen. The words hang there like a confession. I walk over and pick up the phone. Looks like Lena's got quite the appetite, I say quietly. Jason lunges for the phone. But 18 years running construction crews keeps a woman's reflexes sharp. I'm faster. Victoria, give me that. Easy there, Tiger. I unlock the phone. Jason forgot I know the passcode. I start scrolling. The messages blur together. Each one feels like a knife twisting a little deeper. After the first few cuts, you start to go numb. Photos, flirting, plans. Then one message stops me cold. Meet me at the lake house tomorrow. Bring that thing you do with your tongue. Jason's voice breaks. Victoria, please. Mascara streaks across his cheeks as he starts crying. But this isn't the kind of crying I've seen before. This isn't the performance he puts on when he wants something. This is the cry of a man who's been caught. How long, I ask? He swallows. 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of dinners. Half a year of business trips. Half a year of kisses goodbye while he was already thinking about someone else. Who is she? Lena Duval, he whispers. Consultant, former military logistics analyst. Of course she is. Let me guess. Athletic. Confident. Probably drives a truck bigger than my first apartment. Jason doesn't answer, which tells me everything. I set the phone down carefully on the counter, like it might explode. Maybe it already has. I never meant for this to happen, he says quickly. Victoria, we can work through this. Marriage counseling. I'll end it with Lena. I swear I will. Will you? I tap the phone. Because these messages suggest Lena's expecting you tomorrow night. His shoulders sag. I was going to tell you. When? Soon. After you two ran off into the sunset? I fold my arms. Or after you cleaned out our joint account and disappeared? It's not like that, he says desperately. Then what is it, Jason? My voice stays calm. Too calm. Explain it to me like I'm one of the dumb construction workers you're always apologizing for at your office parties. His face flushes red. He never has an answer for that. Not once in 18 years. I push away from the counter and stand up. My joints creak slightly. Too many years lifting lumber and climbing scaffolding. Sleep in the guest room tonight, I say. We'll figure things out tomorrow. I walk past him toward the stairs. He calls my name once. Victoria. But I keep walking. Upstairs. Down the hallway. Into the bedroom that used to belong to both of us. I sit on the edge of the bed in the dark. For a long time, I just listened to the quiet house breathing around me. 6 months. Jason and Lena. The lake house. The lies. But mostly I'm thinking about something else. For years, people have underestimated me. They see a woman in construction and assume I'm softer. Slower. Easier to outmaneuver. Jason made that mistake. Lena probably did too. And lying there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, one thought settles quietly into place. That's going to be their first mistake, and their last. Morning comes too early. I'm awake before the alarm. Years of construction work hardwire that into your bones. When you've spent decades starting job sites before sunrise, your body stops asking permission from sleep. 5:30 a.m. Instead of making coffee for 2, I make it for 1. The kitchen looks exactly the same as it did a few hours ago, but something fundamental has shifted. The air feels different, quieter. Jason's car is already gone. Of course it is. He's always been good at avoiding uncomfortable mornings. I stand at the sink, watching steam curl from the mug in my hands. 6 months. The number repeats in my head like a hammer tapping on steel. The back door swings open at exactly 6. Right on schedule. Benny Kowalski steps inside without knocking, same as he's done for the last 3 years. Benny is my foreman, my right hand, and one of the few men I trust completely. Thick shoulders, permanently squinting eyes, and a personality that could sand rust off steel. He pours himself a cup of coffee without asking. Then he looks at me. "You look like hell," he says. "You could say that." He leans against the counter, sipping his coffee slowly. "Jason?" I nod once. That's all the confirmation he needs. "What happened?" I tell him. Everything. The late nights, the perfume, the message on the phone. Lena Duval. The lake house. The 6 months of lies. Benny doesn't interrupt. He just listens, his jaw tightening slightly with every detail. When I finish, the kitchen goes quiet again. He drums his fingers on the counter once. Then he asks the only question that matters. "So what's the play?" I stare down into my coffee for a moment. "Information first," I say. He nods slowly. "Can't fight an enemy you don't understand." Exactly. Benny knows a guy who knows a guy. In construction, you meet all kinds of people. Contractors, inspectors, mechanics, off-duty cops, bartenders, private investigators who prefer cash payments and quiet favors. By noon, Benny is back. He drops a thick folder on the kitchen table. It lands with a heavy slap. "That was fast," I say. He shrugs. "Small town, everybody knows somebody." I flip open the folder. Photos, background reports, property records. Lena Duval, age 42. Divorced twice. Currently renting a lake house on the expensive side of town. Black Ford F-150 Raptor. Security consulting business. Military logistics background. But what catches my attention isn't the resume. It's the pattern. Benny taps one of the photos. "Recognize her?" I lean closer. "Linda Patterson. 4th of July barbecue 2 years ago. Her husband left town shortly after." "Lena?" I ask. Benny nods. "At least 3 others too." He flips another page. More photos. More names. More marriages that ended suddenly. "She's like a tornado," Benny says. Blows through town, wrecks a few homes, then moves on. My phone buzzes. A text message. "Jason, can we talk? I'm at Carla's." Carla Martinez, Jason's closest friend, and the woman who's encouraged half his bad decisions over the years. If gossip were a sport, Carla would have trophies. I glance at Benny. "Feel like going for a drive?" His grin appears slowly. "Been hoping you'd say that." Carla's house sits at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac lined with manicured lawns and expensive SUVs. Jason's silver sedan is parked in the driveway next to Carla's white BMW. I park down the street. We wait. 20 minutes later, a truck pulls up. Black. Lifted. Aggressive. Ford Raptor. Lena. The driver's door opens. She steps out. Tall. Athletic. Confident in the way some people move when they know exactly how much attention they attract. She walks to the front door like she owns the place. Benny whistles quietly. "Well," he mutters. That explains the perfume. Through the front window, I see Jason appear. He doesn't even hesitate. He pulls Lena straight into his arms. They kiss. Not shy. Not careful. Like teenagers who think the world belongs to them. Behind them, Carla stands near the kitchen counter watching. Phone already in her hand. Recording. Of course she is. My stomach twists. But my hands stay steady. I raise my phone. Click. One photograph. Click. Another. Jason with his arms around Lena. Click. Lena laughing against his shoulder. Each picture burns into my memory like a brand. Humiliation is a powerful thing, but humiliation can also be useful. 20 minutes later, Jason and Lena leave together. The Raptor pulls away from the curb. I start the engine. Benny raises an eyebrow. You sure? Very. We follow them. Not too close, just enough to keep the taillights in sight. They drive out toward the edge of town, toward the lake. The road curves through tall trees and quiet properties with private docks and expensive vacation homes. Eventually, the truck turns down a gravel driveway. A large house sits near the shoreline. Glass windows. Private dock. A place built for secrets. The Raptor parks. Jason and Lena disappear inside. Benny shifts in his seat. You want to go knock on the door? I shake my head. No. Instead, I raise the phone again. Click. The truck. Click. The house. Click. The two of them entering together. Each image, another piece of evidence. Another nail waiting for the right hammer. Benny studies me carefully. You okay? I stare at the lake house through the windshield. No, I say quietly. But I will be. Inside that house, Jason is probably laughing. Maybe pouring wine. Maybe telling Lena stories about how difficult his partner is. Maybe promising her things he once promised me. But sitting there in the truck, something inside me settles into place. Humiliation fades. Clarity replaces it. Construction teaches patience. You don't rush a foundation. You measure twice. Then you cut. And right now I'm measuring. Jason and Lena think they're the ones in control. They think they're writing the story. But watching that lake house from the darkness of my truck, I realize something important. They just stepped onto a job site, and they have absolutely no idea what's about to be built. The first rule of construction is simple. You don't start swinging a hammer until you know exactly where the structure is going to stand. Most people, when they discover betrayal, rush straight into demolition. Screaming, crying, public fights. But demolition without a plan just leaves rubble. What I want is something much cleaner. Something permanent. Jason and Lena think the worst part of this story already happened. They think the night I found those messages was the explosion. They're wrong. That was just the moment the foundation was poured. 3 days later, Benny and I are sitting in Mickey's bar. Mickey's has been the unofficial meeting place for half the contractors, mechanics, and truck drivers in town for 30 years. Cheap beer, scratched wood floors, neon signs humming above the bar. The kind of place where people talk too much when they feel comfortable. And tonight, Jason Hale is very comfortable. He's sitting at a table near the back of the room, holding court like he's the star of his own little show. Lena sits beside him, long legs crossed, one hand draped casually across his arm. They look good together, confident, relaxed, like two people who think the storm has already passed. Around them, a small crowd listens while Jason tells stories from his consulting work, the kind of exaggerated war stories men like him love to tell. Benny sits at a table near the jukebox, pretending to watch a baseball game on the television. I sit alone at the bar with a beer I haven't touched. Mickey, the bartender, leans toward me. You sure you want to be here tonight, Victoria? I'm sure. Across the room, Jason laughs loudly at something Lena says. Then he says something that makes the table erupt with laughter. Even from here, I can hear the words. Married women, Jason says, lifting his drink. They appreciate a real man. The room chuckles. They're grateful, he continues. They'll do things their husbands never even think of asking for. Someone whistles. Someone else claps him on the back. My grip tightens around the beer glass. For a moment, the room blurs red around the edges. Benny glances toward me, ready to step in if things go bad. But I raise one finger slightly. Wait. Then I stand up. Every step toward Jason's table feels strangely calm, like walking across a job site where the measurements have already been taken. Jason sees me halfway across the room. His smile fades. Victoria, he says slowly. Lena turns in her chair, studying me with cool curiosity. Jason's friends shift awkwardly in their seats. Evening, I say. Jason forces a smirk. You following me now? No. I glance around the table. I just wanted to meet the woman who's been borrowing my boyfriend. A few of the men chuckle nervously. Lena tilts her head. You must be Victoria, she says smoothly. Her voice is calm, almost amused. I've heard a lot about you. I'm sure you have. Jason stands up. You shouldn't be here. Funny, I say. I was just thinking the same thing about you. His jaw tightens. Look, this isn't the place. You're right, I say. This place deserves better stories. A few people nearby lean closer. Barrooms love drama. Jason's pride starts creeping into his expression. You done? He says. Almost. I turn to Lena. You might want to ask him how the last 3 relationships you destroyed ended. Her eyes narrow slightly. Jason steps closer to me. Leave, he says. The room has gone quiet now. Everyone's watching. What's wrong, I ask. Afraid people might hear the truth? Jason's face darkens. Don't start something you can't finish. There it is. The moment. I see Benny shift in his chair. Mickey stops wiping glasses behind the bar. Jason's temper has always been his weak spot. I just needed to push the right button. You're right, I say calmly. I should have realized sooner. Realized what? He snaps. That the man I lived with for 18 years is exactly the kind of coward who needs someone else's girlfriend to feel important. His fist moves before his brain does. The punch lands square against my jaw. Pain explodes through my head. The floor rushes up. For a moment, all I see are flashing lights and spinning shadows. Voices shout. Chairs scrape across the floor. Benny jumps up instantly. But from the ground, I raise a hand. No, I say hoarsely. I'm fine. Jason stands above me, breathing hard, chest rising and falling. Stay away from me, he snarls. And stay away from Lena. The room is silent except for the buzzing neon lights. I slowly push myself to my feet. My jaw throbs. My lip tastes like copper. But I smile. Funny thing, I say quietly. Jason was crying about you 2 nights ago. Lena's expression flickers. Jason glares at me. She'll get over it, he says. Eventually. He doesn't realize something important. When I stood up from that floor, I didn't just stand up as the betrayed partner. I stood up with something far more valuable. Because the small black recorder tucked inside my jacket pocket is still running. Crystal clear audio. Jason bragging. Jason insulting relationships. Jason describing married men as fools. People say the stupidest things when they think they're among friends. Later that night, my phone buzzes. Jason. Derek told me what happened at the bar. This has to stop. I'm filing for divorce. I stare at the message for a moment. Then I type back one sentence. Your choice. You might want to ask Linda Patterson how it worked out for her husband. The typing indicator appears. Stops. Appears again. Then disappears completely. Across town, Jason is probably staring at his phone, trying to understand what that message means. But the real problem isn't the message. The real problem is something he still hasn't realized. The trap is already being built. And tonight, he just handed me the first piece of it. Humiliation is a strange thing. When it happens to you, it feels unbearable. But when you learn how to aim it, how to guide it, it becomes one of the most powerful tools a person can use. Construction taught me that too. Pressure reveals weak points. And Jason Hale has always had one weakness bigger than any other. His pride. 2 weeks after the bar fight, the entire town gathers for the 4th of July parade. Small towns take their traditions seriously. Main Street is packed with families, folding chairs, kids waving flags, the smell of grilled food drifting from every direction. The parade route runs right past the reviewing stand my crew helped build earlier that week. Malloy Construction sponsors half the event every year, another advantage of owning the largest construction company in town. People trust you with important things. Benny and I stand near the back of the float staging area, checking cables and speakers. You sure about this? Benny asks quietly. I adjust the clipboard in my hand. It'll look like an accident. He grins. That's my favorite kind. Across the street, Jason and Lena arrive together. They walk like a couple that enjoys being watched. Jason in a fitted shirt and sunglasses. Lena in a red summer dress that turns heads wherever she goes. Behind them, Carla Martinez trails along, holding her phone like a reporter chasing a story. Recording everything. Always recording. Carla spots me across the street and raises an eyebrow. Jason notices too. For a brief moment, our eyes meet. He smiles. Not apologetic. Not nervous. Just smug. Like he thinks he already won. Benny mutters beside me. Guy's got confidence. I'll give him that. Confidence, I say calmly, and bad timing. Jason and Lena move closer to the reviewing stand where the parade judges sit, right beneath one of the floats my crew prepared earlier that morning. Decorated with red, white, and blue streamers, and one very large confetti cannon, designed for the finale. But sometimes equipment has issues. Jason walks past the float just as the marching band begins approaching from the corner. Kids run alongside the parade route waving flags. Carla stands nearby, filming Jason and Lena like they're celebrities. I glance toward Benny. He gives a subtle nod. Then, boom, the confetti cannon fires. Not upward, forward. A massive explosion of colorful paper streamers blasts directly into Jason's chest. The force knocks him backward. He stumbles. His heel catches on the curb, and he falls. Hard. Right into a large, steaming pile of horse manure left behind by the mounted police unit leading the parade. The entire street freezes, for exactly 1 second. Then someone laughs. Then another. Then suddenly the entire crowd erupts. Jason scrambles to his feet, covered in confetti, dirt, and something much worse. His sunglasses hang crooked. His shirt is ruined. And the smell reaches the front row almost instantly. Carla's phone is still recording. Of course it is. Lena stands frozen beside him, trying not to laugh. But the damage is already done. Jason looks around wildly. People are pointing. Kids are laughing. A man across the street shouts, "Careful there, buddy." Another voice yells, "Guess the parade's really hitting the fan." Jason's face turns a violent shade of red. Humiliation. Pure public humiliation. He storms off the street while Lena chases after him. Carla follows, still filming every second. Benny leans closer to me. That cannon malfunctioned pretty spectacularly. Must have been a wiring issue. By the time the parade ends that afternoon, the video has already spread across town. Small towns don't need the internet to move fast. But the internet definitely helps. By sunset, everyone has seen it. Jason Hale, face first in horse manure. Confetti raining down around him like a patriotic disaster. At Mickey's bar that night, the laughter is relentless. Even people who barely know Jason are telling the story like it's a legend. By midnight, the clip has made its way through half the county. Jason calls me 3 times. I don't answer. Instead, I sit on the porch with a glass of iced tea, listening to crickets chirping in the dark. Benny pulls into the driveway and walks up the steps. "You see the video?" he asks. "I might have heard something about it." He laughs. "You know the best part?" "What?" "Jason's trying to tell people you planned it." "And do they believe him?" Benny shakes his head. "Nope." He leans against the porch railing. "People keep saying the same thing." "What's that?" "That guy must have terrible luck." I take a slow sip of tea. Jason's pride is bleeding now. And pride makes people reckless. Exactly the way I need him to be. 3 days later, I arrive at the construction yard early in the morning. Something immediately feels wrong. Benny is already there, standing near my truck. His hands rest on his hips. "That ain't good," he mutters. My stomach tightens. All 4 tires on my truck are slashed. The trailer beside it is spray painted with one word. Loser. A note sits under the windshield wiper. "Back off, or it gets worse." Benny whistles softly. "Well," he says, "looks like he's got a temper." I crouch down beside the truck. Then I look toward the small security camera mounted above the tool shed. Installed months ago after a string of equipment thefts. Benny follows my gaze. His grin spreads slowly. "You thinking what I'm thinking? Let's check the footage." Inside the office, we rewind the recording from the night before. The grainy image shows a familiar figure walking into the yard. Jason, spray can in one hand, knife in the other, slashing tires, painting the trailer. Every second perfectly captured on camera. Benny leans back in his chair. "Well now?" I fold my arms. Jason wanted escalation. He just handed it to me. Because vandalism is one thing, but getting caught doing it on camera? That's a mistake that's about to cost him a lot more than his pride. And the trap I started building 2 weeks ago just got a whole lot stronger. The thing about traps is that the best ones don't snap shut immediately. The best ones let the target struggle, panic, make mistakes. And Jason Hale is very good at making mistakes when his pride is wounded. The morning after we watch the security footage, Benny and I sit in the office of the construction yard. The video plays again on the monitor. Jason's face is clear. Too clear. Spray paint in hand. Knife glinting under the yard lights. Every slash of the tires perfectly visible. Benny leans back in his chair and whistles. "Well," he says, "that's about the cleanest evidence I've seen outside a courtroom." I pause the video on Jason's face. For a moment, I just study it. The anger. The desperation. The stupidity. "Call Officer Brennan," I say. Benny nods. Mike Brennan has been a police officer in this town for almost 20 years. He also happens to be one of the contractors who occasionally hires my crew for small renovations on his house, which means he answers my call quickly. Within an hour, Officer Mike Brennan pulls into the yard. He steps out of his cruiser holding a notepad. "What happened?" he asks. Benny gestures toward the truck. Mike walks slowly around the vehicle, inspecting the tires, the spray paint, the note under the windshield. "Looks personal," he says. "You could say that." Inside the office, we show him the security footage. Mike watches silently. When the video ends, he sighs. "Well," he mutters, "that's pretty straightforward." He writes up a report, takes photos, and copies the video file. "Technically vandalism," he says. "Misdemeanor." "Is that enough to arrest him?" Benny asks. Mike shakes his head. "Not yet. But if he keeps escalating?" Mike looks at the screen again. "Then he's going to have a very bad week." Jason does exactly what I expect him to do. He spirals. Within a few days, he starts telling people I'm stalking him. He files complaints with the police. He tells anyone who will listen that I'm obsessed. At first, the rumors move quickly, but small towns have excellent memories, and people remember the parade. They remember the bar fight. They remember the video of him vandalizing my property once Mike quietly confirms the investigation. At Mickey's bar, the conversation begins shifting. "You hear Jason saying Victoria's stalking him?" Someone snorts. "That guy's losing it." "Guilty conscience," another voice adds. Jason starts showing up at the bar louder than usual. Angrier, drinking more, complaining about how everyone is against him. The more he talks, the worse he looks. Psychological pressure works best when the target applies most of it themselves, and Jason is doing a fantastic job of that. A week later, the Founders' Day celebration arrives. It's one of the biggest events of the year. Union Hall fills with families, local business owners, and half the town's leadership. Long tables, music, a stage at the front for announcements and speeches. And this year, I'm the one organizing the event, which means I control the sound system, the projector, and the presentation schedule. Benny stands near the back doors watching the crowd. Your guest of honor just arrived, he murmurs. I glance toward the entrance. Jason walks inside, Lena beside him. She's wearing a dark blue dress tonight, Jason's arm wrapped around her waist, like he's daring anyone to challenge him. Behind them, Carla Martinez circles like a satellite with her phone raised. Recording. Always recording. Jason spots me near the stage. He smiles again. That same smug smile. He still thinks this is a fight he can win. Crowd's big tonight, Benny says quietly. Good, I reply. Mrs. Keene, the 70-year-old woman who lives next door to my house, walks past carrying a tray of desserts. She stops beside me. Evening, dear, she says sweetly. You ready for your speech? I think so. She leans closer. That man with the truck, the one your Jason's been spending time with. Lena, I say. Yes, her. Mrs. Keene lowers her voice. I've seen that truck outside your house several times while you were working. I nod. Thank you for telling me. She pats my arm. Appearances matter in this town. She's right. Jessica, no. Lena has spent months curating Jason's image. Tonight, that image is going to collapse. 8 o'clock. Union Hall is packed. Benny dims the lights slightly as I step onto the stage. The microphone hums softly when I tap it. Evening, everyone, I say. The room quiets. Jason leans back in his chair near the middle of the hall, relaxed, confident. He has no idea what's coming. I appreciate everyone coming tonight, I continue. I also wanted to share something important about respect in our community. A few confused looks pass through the crowd. Jason shifts slightly in his seat. Benny walks over to the sound booth. I nod once. The lights dim further. Then the speakers crackle. Jason's voice fills the entire hall. Clear, loud, impossible to miss. The thing about married women is they appreciate a real man. The room goes silent. Jason's smile vanishes instantly. His head snaps toward the speakers. His own voice continues echoing through the hall. They're grateful. They'll do things their husbands never dream of asking for. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Lena's face goes pale. Jason jumps to his feet. What the hell is this? He shouts. Behind me, the projector flickers on. The screen lights up. Photos, text messages, timestamps. Jason and Lena entering the lake house. Jason at the bar bragging. Jason vandalizing my truck. Every piece of the investigation laid out clearly. Months of lies turned into a public record. It's slander, Jason yells. It's the truth, I reply calmly. Also, I add, this is a one-party consent state. That recording is perfectly legal. The room erupts with whispers. Working-class towns value loyalty, and they value honesty. Jason looks around desperately as the crowd turns against him. Then he does exactly what I knew he would do. He lunges toward the stage. But this time I'm ready. He swings. His fist hits nothing but air. Hands grab him from behind. Officer Mike Brennan steps forward. Jason Hale, Mike says calmly. You're under arrest for assault. Handcuffs snap closed. The entire room buzzes with shocked voices and flashing phone cameras. Jason shouts something incoherent as Mike escorts him toward the door. Lena slips away behind him. Carla follows, still filming everything. The trap is finally closing, and Jason walks straight into it. The doors of Union Hall slam shut behind Jason. For a moment, the room remains completely still. Then the noise begins. Voices rise in confused waves across the hall. Chairs scrape the floor. Phones lift into the air as people replay what they just witnessed. Small towns run on stories. And tonight they just watched one explode. Officer Mike Brennan walks Jason toward the patrol car outside. Through the tall windows I can see Jason still shouting, his face twisted with fury. The handcuffs gleam under the streetlights. Lena hurries after him, her heels clicking sharply on the pavement. For the first time since I met her, she looks uncertain. Not confident. Not amused. Just worried. Carla stands a few feet away, filming everything with her phone like it's the grand finale of a reality show. The room behind me buzzes louder. Benny steps up beside the stage, arms folded across his chest. Well, he says quietly, that escalated nicely. I step down from the microphone. People immediately begin approaching. Questions. Whispers. A few sympathetic pats on the shoulder. Mrs. Keene is the first to reach me. That was remarkable, dear, she says. Very educational. I almost laugh at the word. Educational. That's what Jason called my humiliation weeks ago in that bar. Now the entire town has heard it. One of the city council members shakes my hand. Didn't realize things had gotten that serious, he says. They did, I reply simply. Across the room, a group of construction workers from neighboring crews nod toward me with quiet respect. People here value strength, but they value patience even more. Benny glances toward the windows. Jason is being placed into the back of the police cruiser. Think Lena's going to bail him out? He asks. Maybe. The cruiser door slams, but it won't change anything. The town moves quickly. By morning, the story is everywhere. The bar recording, the vandalism footage, the slideshow from Union Hall. Within hours, the video of Jason's arrest spreads across local social media pages. The same internet that laughed at the parade humiliation now devours the rest of the story. At Mickey's bar, the next night, someone hangs a small sign above Jason's old table, reserved for bad decisions. People laugh. But the laughter carries something else too. Judgment. Reputation is currency in a place like this. Jason just spent all of his... 3 days later, the police finish processing the vandalism charges. Officer Brennan calls me in the afternoon. Jason's lawyer contacted the station, he says, trying to negotiate. For what? Reduce charges. I lean back in my office chair. And? Mike chuckles softly. Well, the video evidence didn't leave him much room to argue. Good. There's a short pause. You okay, Victoria? Mike asks. Better than I expected. After we hang up, I sit quietly for a moment. The construction yard outside my office window buzzes with normal activity. Workers unloading lumber. Trucks reversing. The steady rhythm of real work. Life continuing. Benny knocks on the open door and walks in. Jason's truck just left town, he says. With Lena? Looks that way. I nod once. Probably for the best. She burned through 2 other towns before this one, Benny says. Wouldn't be surprised if she tries another. Maybe. But something tells me Lena Duval isn't going to forget this town anytime soon. A week later, the noise fades. The gossip settles into background conversation. People move on. They always do. One evening, I sit alone on the porch, watching the sun drop behind the trees. The same porch where I drank iced tea the night Jason's humiliation began spreading through town. Benny pulls into the driveway again, same as always. Routine returns faster than people expect. He climbs the steps and hands me a cold beer. You ever regret it? He asks. What? Going that far. I stare out across the yard for a moment. No, not even a little. I shake my head slowly. For 18 years, I say, I built something with Jason. A home, a life. And he decided to tear it down. Benny nods. That happens. Yeah. I take a sip of the beer. But construction teaches you something important. What's that? When a structure collapses, you don't stand there crying over the rubble. You clear the site. You study what failed. And then you build something stronger. The evening air settles around us. Crickets begin their nightly chorus. For the first time in months, the quiet feels peaceful. Not empty, just calm. Jason thought he walked into a town where he could break things and leave without consequences. He thought he could trade up, replace one life with another, keep his reputation intact. He was wrong. I built something instead. A trap so complete that he destroyed himself trying to escape it. Benny raises his beer. To good construction, I smile faintly. That's the thing about building, I say. You measure twice. You wait. Then you cut. The sun disappears behind the trees. The porch lights flicker on. And for the first time since that night in the kitchen, I finally feel like myself again. Not the betrayed partner. Not the woman people underestimated for years. Just Victoria Malloy, a builder. A strategist. A woman who turned wreckage into something solid again. Because this time, the thing I built wasn't a house. It was an ending.